I made a resolution for myself as a New Year resolution to learn more about how scientific community has an impact on sustainable future for our planet. I'm curious, in your day-to-day activities, is there some part of you that wants to, I guess, have an impact not just on patients, but obviously on the way the business is conducted in a sustainable environment? I know this is a bit of a crazy pivot, but I'm curious, as we as scientists obviously have a role to play in driving this sustainable future, but in the company and like maybe you personally, like, do you feel like an increasing need to address that aspect of the business as well?
Yeah, I mean, you got it right. I think part of being scientifically minded is that you're aware of the ecological impact we have, perhaps more aware than the average citizen. Whether that's a blessing or a curse. I know it's hard as a scientist. We use a lot of disposable plasticware and things like that. But that's necessary to produce good science. And it's not to say that we can't do things to, address that. So it's funny you should ask the question. I mean, I'm one of the health, safety, and environment officers at Sygnature Discovery. So the environment part is something we take very seriously, and we do have initiatives at Sygnature to try and make sure that we're minimizing the impact we have on the environment with what we do. Because that's an important thing. We've got to look after the planet as much as we look after ourselves. It's cyclical, really. So we try our best to put as much plastic back into the recycling system as we possibly can, and we're always keen to reduce packaging and make sure that we're using reagents or techniques that produce less waste where it's scientifically prudent to do so. And also just in day-to-day operations, we got rid of plastic cups a couple of years ago. For Christmas, we all got metal, drinks bottles, because, every little helps when it comes to this kind of thing. We're always open to ideas on how to minimize our impact on the environment in general.
So do you think it's the lack of, let's say, available recycling technologies, or is this just a pure research necessity currently that sort of precludes, organizations such as yours and many others to really make a significant leap forward in this regard?
It's multiple things, isn't it? There's a whole system to consider when it comes to the kind of pollution, for want of a better words, that we produce and what we can do with it. I mean, one of the questions is, could we recycle contaminated waste? I mean, I don't know. Maybe there are processes that could come in the future that would allow us to safely decontaminate laboratory waste so we could use it again. Could we use different materials for certain aspects, like pipette tips that could be reused? I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I know some of the things that we do, we'll use things in lieu of pipette tips for dispensing compounds, because pipette tips are a waste. They're just disposable plastic. So we'll use metal tipped automated dispensers to get around that. Or, something we use 90% of the time these days is we use contact-free acoustic dosing platforms, which cut down on a lot of plastic waste. So it's an interesting question.
So would you say, just in the hypothetical world, if you had a company that does something in that sort of, let's say they have a technology or a way to minimize waste or mitigate the effects of it, is it something that, let's say, in a company would be like, okay, we're interested in maybe exploring that as like a pilot option?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, we have quite a good system where the staff at Sygnature, they're always kind of encouraged to suggest ways in which we can improve on our environmental impact and things like that. So a lot of our current initiatives have come out of that. Likewise, if there are, as you mentioned, more like institutional or commercial endeavors which would allow us to reduce the waste we produce or the energy we use or things like that, yeah, that's something that we would certainly consider. I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I just feel like as this year rolled in, it just became ever more palpable, because if you recall, maybe early on in the COVID time, like, it even feels strange even saying these things. I remember reading all these reports, like whales in the Hudson or something like really crazy, where things are slowing down. You see nature sort of taking back what it's lost, and it just sort of made me realize even more, prominently, just how much of an impact we are having. And if there is a way to keep that conversation evolving, even in this kind of instance, where this kind of might get exposure, that there's companies that are interested in exploring new technologies, every little bit helps. And it's nice to see that even places with such strict, let's say, deadlines, strict demand for all the scientific rigor, as you mentioned, there is room for improvement. There is always room for innovation.
Yeah, no, I completely agree that it's a topic we should be bringing up in conversation more frequently, and hopefully in conversations where it wouldn't usually crop up. I think in research, it's as I say, it's an even more poignant conversation, because we do produce a lot of waste. We do have to be mindful of the kind of waste that we're producing, and equally, I'm sure there's a lot of other industries that would benefit from the same conversation. And I agree, it's in a way, this year started out with the fires in Australia and things like that, and it brings home kind of what kind of impact people are having, and what we can do to try and mitigate that. So I do think it's an important conversation.